It is the ugly side of the beautiful game. This is what officers face at football matches every week.
Football isn't just a game, it's much more important than that. It's our life, it's our feelings, it's our passion. It dictates our mood. We love football, we live it, we breathe it, we eat it. Football is everything. It's football heritage.
The pre-game nerves, the nail-biting moment, nothing beats a derby day.
We're still fighting for this title, and he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
As far as Southgate! In contrast to the tone of much Shearer, who hits it! And scored!
The time for Manchester United with Beckham!
That's his chances. Oh, brilliant goal! A brilliant goal!
Losing is no option.
Where they play, how they play, if they play. That's football heritage.
Yes, welcome to Rivals React. I can hear an echo. Is it just me? I think it's just me. Welcome, guys. How's it going? You can hear. Okay, there is an echo, but it's fine. I think it's gone now. But we've got Steve, Strasbourg Steve in the house, Charlie from Blue Brothers, Dave Asprey, Will Stewart from Tottenham away. Guys, how are we all doing? I hope you guys are all well.
I'm good.
Good. Look, there was some football on the weekend. We've got some football starting again. We are properly into the Christmas era now of football. It feels like every other day that there's a game of football on. Look, let's dive straight into it. I want to talk straight away at the moment about Man United. I want to try and get a Man United fan on to talk about, but the talk at the moment about Ten Hag and all this stuff that's come out, and now Man United are banning reporters to Old Trafford. Is it the end for Eric Ten Hag? And do we think it is the time for him? Steve, look, I'll start with you, my friend. Is Ten Hag getting sacked anytime in the near future? Because it feels like that way, right?
Yeah. Once Liverpool put like a few past them, I'm sure that they'll sack him after that. They did the same with Mourinho. He can't hack it at Manchester United for circumstances out of his kind of control. But then the stuff that he is control of, I think he's not doing very good at. So it's one of those. I think he'll do well somewhere else. I think he could do well. Just not at Manchester United. No, and a lot of those players suck too. Let's not get it twisted. Those are the same players that have been there for years, just been terrible. So, it's pretty like Man United. Like there's people want to talk about them for hours and hours and hours, probably just because of who they are, or who they were. But like for me, it's pretty simple. The players are terrible and underperforming, and they have done for years. They show up every once in a while. Same thing with the manager, who pull out a good result every once in a while. And then they just progress back to a slightly above average team in terms of everybody else. Like I don't fear playing them. With Newcastle, we comfortably won the game, to be honest. Could we have scored a few more goals? Sure. But we got the job done. The last 10 minutes was nervy, but that was just because of the PSG game. I'll never be able to sit through a game that we have a lead and feel comfortable about it ever again in my life. That has scarred me for life.
No.
It's just that was the only reason why I was nervous though. It wasn't because of what they were doing. It wasn't because of what they were doing. It was just PTSD from sports, That's literally it.
No, definitely.
It's one of those. Like, they just suck. Like, they'll finish like 6 or 7, maybe get an FA Cup. That's about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, Dave, I want to sort of bring you in. I think what Steve makes a good point. I feel like at Man United, this isn't the Man United of old when I was growing up. I grew up with this Man United team under Sir Alex Ferguson, winning everything, and he was the man in charge and he was the boss. It's not the same at Man United now, but it does feel like a cycle with Man United. They start well, get a result, maybe win the odd trophy, odd cup here and there, and then it goes back to square one again. And for me, I think at the moment at Man United, they need a whole change. It's not just a manager thing. It is from top down. And I think they need to go and get an infrastructure at Man United that can actually start competing with the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal right now.
Yeah, it just feels dysfunctional to me. And it has felt dysfunctional for quite a long time. And I think what Manchester United are going through, I kind of, without being clever after the event, I kind of saw it coming, because to replace Sir Alex Ferguson, to fill those gigantic shoes, is a nigh on impossible task. So whoever's going to follow him, and several guys have followed him since, they're always going to find it really, really difficult. We had it at Forest, replacing Brian Clough, nigh on impossible. And we went into the wilderness for a long, long time. United are not in the wilderness that Forest went into. United are still, got European football and stuff, something we can only dream about. But it just strikes me that there's a streak running through United of not doing things properly, not being attentive to the important things. The ownership and the supporters are at loggerheads. The ownership doesn't appear to be going anywhere. They need a revolution, but at the moment they're going through a painful evolution that's taking them absolutely nowhere. So it's not all bad at Manchester United. Højlund I think it's a good lad. There's some good players in that. I mean, prior to that sort of unbelievably one-sided 1-0 loss at Newcastle, where Newcastle really ought to have won 7 or 8, there was this bizarre statistic going round where United were the form team in the division. Now, kind of quite how they got to that stat, I don't know. They're a decent side, but the but always comes in, and you can't get away from that. And I think that the dysfunction isn't going to go away anytime soon. I certainly, I thought they might sneak into the top 4 at the start of the season. I don't think that's going to happen now. I look at, Villa are a better set than they are. Tottenham, they've gone through a little patch, but I think Tottenham are a better set than Chelsea are better than United, I think, even though Chelsea are lower in the table. It just strikes me with Manchester United that which we all grew accustomed to under Sir Alex, where everything was nailed down and bomb-proof and waterproof. You just feel with United, it's an institution which it's almost like it's been left behind by the football ecology as it is at the moment. And I don't, they're going to kind of, they're muddling and middling through, which is not what Manchester United is about, and not what the Manchester United support are going to tolerate for too much longer. So
Dave,
we'll see what happens.
Dave, the crazy thing? Sorry, I was just going to say this, Dave. What the crazy thing is? All those teams that you listed, Villa, Newcastle, Man City, all those teams, they have at least one guy where it's like, that guy can make something happen. That guy can score goals. That guy can command a game from the middle of the park. But Man United, all they have to rely on, they're offensively speaking, they've scored the same amount of goals this season as Bournemouth on 16. You guys have scored the same amount of goals as them, if I'm not mistaken. You're both on 16, right? And I believe Wolves have scored 3 more, and they've been struggling to score. They're one of those teams that we just look at neutrals as like, wow, they played some good football, but you work on their finishing, and even they're 3 better off than Man United.
I think, Steve, the point you made, Steve, about that fear, that kind of daunting approach that teams used to have to going to Old Trafford has gone completely. We went there, I think, the 2nd or 3rd game of the season. We were 2 up after 5 minutes, and we were all like stood around going, hang on a minute. Isn't this meant to be Manchester United? Isn't this meant to be the shrine? Isn't this meant to be some kind of, epicenter of football in this country, and it felt anything but. And we lost because we're not really yet an established Premier League side. That's where we're trying to get to. But we all came away from Old Trafford. I remember walking out of Old Trafford to go back to the car, got soaked in a proper Manchester downpour, thinking, you know what, we lost, but God, that was a missed opportunity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of that trepidation that teams had going to Old Trafford, especially under Sir Alex, that has long since dissipated.
Yeah. No, look, Charlie. I'll bring you into this one quickly as well. Just we'll finish up with Man United as well. I'll get Will's thoughts on it as well, and then we'll move on slightly. But look, Man United for me now they're falling away because, and I think Dave made a great point. The likes of Newcastle now, the likes of Aston Villa, these are teams now at their level, if not better.
Yeah.
Could you see Man United really falling out of Europe in the sense, as in, can you see them even qualifying for Europe this year?
I think they'll probably qualify for some form of Europe, whether it's Conference League or Europa League. I don't think that they're bad, but they're not bad that they're going to miss out completely on Europe. I don't feel, but you never know what's going to happen. But I think like when things start coming out about leaks, and you've seen this cycle with Man United before in the previous things. When stuff starts coming out, it's obviously been leaked by players or someone with a very inside knowledge of what's happening at the training ground. When stuff like that starts coming out and the manager starts getting undermined, that only ends one way. Whether it's going to be before Christmas or whether it's going to be in January, whenever it's going to be, unless there's a miraculous turnaround, Ten Hag's not going to see the season out. I look at United and I think, realistically, all right, he had a good first season. He got a third place in a Carabao Cup, but really, since they won that Carabao Cup back in February, they've been their football's been horrendous ever since then. I know they've picked up some results, but they've been awful since then. I just look at it and I think the players aren't really playing for him. You look at Rashford, someone that had a very good season last season, but I've always said of Rashford, I think he's a purple patch player. I don't think I never bought into the hype of him, and you can see now he's got the big contract, and we see it with players. He's got the big contract, and now I don't want to say he's down tools, but doesn't look bothered. This is a local lad that has come through the ranks, should know what it means to play for the club more than anyone. Doesn't look interested. How Martial's still at Man United after 9 years is ridiculous. I just think they're suffering from being one of the worst run clubs in the league and suffering from the fact that they haven't been ruthless in the transfer window in terms of getting rid of players. Ten Hag didn't want Maguire. He didn't want McTominay. He wanted to get rid of these guys, and now he's playing them every single week. Rashford's crap at the moment. He still picks him. Anthony had his best game away at Galatasaray. I think it was away at Galatasaray started at his best game, and then Newcastle, he's back on the bench again. So whilst I sympathise with Ten Hag a little bit that the players have been getting away with it for too long, he also doesn't help himself. And the style of play, like we look at Man United, what are they? No identity. You don't really know what you're gonna get from them, and it's nothing. So they've got big problems. And for me, it only ends one way when this sort of stuff starts coming out. Unless there's a miraculous turnaround, I don't see how these players are gonna get back on side of Ten Hag. I don't think the signings he's been backed. I don't think he can complain about not being given what he wants because he wanted Onana, he wanted Mason Mount, he wanted Højlund, he wanted Amrabat, he wanted all these guys, and it's up to him to make it work. And right now, he's not doing it. So look, whilst it's an age-old thing, isn't it? It's always easier to get rid of the manager than it is to get rid of the players. But this will just, if Man United get rid of Ten Hag, they'll bring someone else will come in, and then we'll have this same conversation probably partway through 24 or 25, and the same players will still be there getting away with it. So until they have a mass clear out like we did at Chelsea, then they're not going to go anywhere.
And banning journalists is an incredibly bad look. It speaks of insecurity. What have you got to hide?
I was just that's what I was going to say as well. Like I think when you're doing these things, and look, Will, I'll bring you in on this one for this bit. And when we see the likes of banning journalists, excluding players from going to Carrington, it's all well and good when you're winning games of football, because look, Fergie did it. He said he weren't speaking to BT Sport, not BBC Sport, and all that lot back in the day. But he was winning Premier Leagues. He was winning Champions Leagues. So he gets away with it if you're doing that. But when you're not winning, it doesn't look, as Dave says, it's not a good look at Man United right now.
Yeah, I mean, For me, it just reminds me of a couple clubs, right? You got the Arsenal downfall from Wenger to Arteta. You've got the Tottenham downfall from Pochettino to Big Ange, right? Just, I think clubs after a while, because it's just, I mean, think about it. I mean, Perchy, you're a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
We had everything felt rotten from top to bottom, right? The Levy out movement spurred up. And any player that we purchased or bought within that time period just seemed like it wasn't going to work, right? Like they were good players where they were. I mean, Lo Celso and Dembele come to us, and everybody just turned to crap. And I think Man United is just in that type of a phase right now. And until they really kind of just clean house from top to bottom, they're going to continue to be in that vein, because once you have, and we still have pieces of that, right? Like we still got Eric Dyer, being filmed by our social media team, walking into the training ground, be like, you don't have to film me, mate. I know you're not going to use it anyway. Like those types of attitudes flowing around the dressing room causes them to not be a team. The difference, a lot of people think that Ange has brought in some kind of new philosophy or something that's completely novel. I don't think that's the case. I think that we got rid of several players that just caused divisions in the dressing room, and they feel like a team this year, right? They feel like a team. There's a brotherhood. The players are willing to not only fight for the manager but fight for each other too. And when you have that attitude, you're going, whether it's football or whether it's your job or whether it's your office or business. When you have that mentality built within the system, you're going to get better results. That's just human nature. And right now, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter who Man United signs until they fix that problem, until they fix this divisional aspect of their squad, back office. It starts from the top. Are the Glazers going to do what it takes to revamp and rebuild that system inside of Man United, to get them to have that sort of a system? Like, look, I'm not a fan of Daniel Levy, but him bringing in Postecoglou and having Postecoglou be the guy to kind of get it out. I mean, we've seen it. Eric Dyer's been a mainstay starter for the last 3 managers, and what is he doing now? He's sitting on the bench, playing behind Emerson Royale at right center back, right? So that's you're going to need to find a person who's willing to do that, to cut the deadwood out. And maybe some players that you may think, Rashford, some players that you may think are talents, and because they've got talented players, there's no doubt. And that's why they're getting results at times, right? The results are coming at times, but then they fall back down and lose to teams that they shouldn't be losing to. And that's because of the mentality and the culture that's going on at the club right now. And that's got to change first before anything else.
I don't even know if they have talented players.
They do. But Steve, they have got talent, right?
Talented. Is Harry Maguire talented?
Yes. So we're taking banter right now, right? So Casemiro's talented. Rashford's talented. Anthony was talented.
Luke Shaw
was talented. They have talent.
Rashford is a good goal scorer.
Steve, you don't get third place. I'm sorry, you don't get third place in the league last season if you don't have a talent. If you don't have talented players,
no, there is talent there. It's just they're just not working for the manager. You look at the game against Newcastle. The work rate from that front three was absolutely pathetic. Like you literally got nothing from any of them. You might as well have not. You might as well have played with 7. There was no point to Martial.
As pointed out on Match of the Day.
Yeah, there's no point having Martial, Garnacho, or Rashford on the pitch. You literally might as well have not bothered with them. And you can tell that's when a team is struggling. But this is where then I also feel a little bit. It annoys me about players. I've seen it a lot at Chelsea over the years as well. Players will just seem like they're not trying, or generally aren't trying, and then as soon as someone else comes in, they'll start playing like they can. It's a really bad trait.
Charlie, is that exactly what you're saying? Is my point where I was making? It's a cycle, right? New manager, we start well, and then it ends in the same place. What Man United and Ralph Ragnick, I think, big up Geordie in the chat, when Ralph Ragnick was one that said they need open heart surgery, and they got rid of the guy.
They mocked him. Ragnick was mocked at United.
They got rid of the guy that would have been. I'll be honest. I said at the time, Ralph Ragnick, if he's given the right tools and the keys to Old Trafford, he will fix the problems.
The worst thing they done, United, was spin off Rangnick from a director role. The players that he was identifying that they should go and get, all top players that would have made a massive difference to them. Everything he said was right, but he was looked at and mocked as a figure. Everything Ronaldo said was right. All right, you can argue whether he should have done that interview or not, but everything he said was right. And like I have some sympathy with Ten Hag, but then I also don't, because he's consistently falling out with top players, falling out with Ronaldo, falling out with Jadon Sancho, falling out with Rafael Varane. Now, you can't tell me that Victor Lindelof's a better player than Varane. Like,
Johnny Evans starts over Varane.
Always falling out with players.
Crazy.
And you've got to look at it and you think, do you know what? This is happening so often. Maybe I need to change the way that I approach things as well, and maybe I'll get a bit more of the buy-in from players. It's all very well being, stubborn and sticking to your ways as a manager. Yeah, of course you want to do it your way, but also sometimes you've got to adapt to the situation and think, do you know what? Shit, I'm losing these guys here. Why don't I discuss, like, what do you want more of from me? What can I change a little bit? How do you like to operate and all that sort of thing? Maybe there'd be a slight change, but right now it just seems he's stubborn in his ways and the players aren't buying into it, and he's probably not going to change what he's doing at all.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree. I think the thing is what Man United and Man United fans need is they need, very similar to what Will said. Will made a great point. Spurs brought in Postecoglou. As a Spurs fan, I can get behind this guy. I know it's going to take 2, maybe even 3 years to get to the level we want to be at, but I can get behind this guy because he plays the right style of football. He's a likable guy to get behind. The problem is what Man United need. Man United need that manager. They don't need to go and get the big glamorous names in. They need to go and get a squad in. They need to start rebuilding, and I think that's such a key bit right now. Look, I think Ten Hag, I said it, he won't last the end of the season. I think he'll be gone. I think they're already looking for a new manager, in my opinion. I think he'll be gone quicker than we think. I think if when they play Liverpool, I think that could be the game that gets him the sack. But look, let's slightly move on. I want to sort of stick to it for just one slight second because I want to give Newcastle their credit. Because let's be honest, and Steve's here representing Newcastle, so obviously we'll give him a little bit of due. Let's be honest, you guys deserve more than a 1-0 victory. You guys were sensational. And we talk about injuries. I think Newcastle at the moment have got the biggest injury crisis at the moment. I mean, the amount of goalkeepers on your bench and the amount of academy lads on your bench. And you've got to give a lot of credit to Lewis Miley. He's come in and looked absolutely brilliant, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. Just so proud of the guys that we don't make excuses for ourselves. We don't feel sorry for ourselves. We just go out there. We always have to fall back on. We might not have the first choice 11, or we always have something to fall back on, which is the identity through the play style, right? We know that I know that pretty much every game. Sometimes you get games like Bournemouth where I saw it for 30, 35, 40 minutes out of the game, and the rest was just not very good. And then you get some games like against Paris Saint-Germain, more of the home game. The away game was more of a defensive thing that we did really well on. But we get when I watch Newcastle, I'm like, I always know what I'm getting in terms of identity and philosophy, and regardless of the 11, just when we have the starting 11 out there that I think is our best, we just have a better quality performance. But there's always an identity to fall back upon, and that's always nice. Yeah, really proud of the guys. The crowd always, the crowd always just does its job at St. James's Park. It gives the guys the adrenaline. It gives the guys the rush to the head and stuff like that. Like it's amazing. It's kind of like a little bit of what Klopp did early at Liverpool days. You know, he comes in. He has an amazing fan base at Liverpool, Anfield. The crowd gets hyped up, and I feel like Eddie Howe's kind of taken a little bit of page out of Klopp's book in terms of the relationship with the fans, home and away, and getting them on his side, and really, I think using that crowd energy to kind of translate to the player side of things. I'm not saying he's like an amazing manager for that, but that's just what I noticed, and it's working.
I think you've got to give Eddie Howe a lot of credit. Like, let's be honest. They were slapped with so many injuries. Yeah. He could have easily made the excuses. Oh well, we've got a load of injuries. He's not. Nah, do you know what? They went and beat Chelsea. They went and beat Chelsea 4-1. comfortably on the day. Sorry, Charlie. I know you had it last week, and now you've got to brought up again.
Don't remember that. Don't
you don't remember that? Didn't you?
Don't remember that one.
Didn't you do the travel as well there as well? Didn't you have a good time?
I didn't go all the way up there and back in the same day to see that. No, definitely not.
Good effort, Charlie. Lad.
The fun's of being a travelling football fan. I remember some horrible trips where we just got absolutely battered and gone. Oh, it's now 2 a.m. and I've got work the next day. It's an absolute nightmare.
City away, Arsenal away, Leicester away, West Ham away last year.
Don't. But look, on the Newcastle front at the moment, like for me, I think, as I said, Eddie Howe takes a lot of credit. Like they should have beaten PSG in the week with the same team, by the way. That decision, if anyone's seen the handball decision in that game, the Newcastle PSG game, one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen some shocking decisions. I mean, the ball is thumped his hand and he gives him a handball against it. And that's why I've said all along, I said, with these handball rules now, if I'm a manager, I'm telling him, if you can't get a clean crossing, aim for a defender's hand, you'll get a penalty. But look, guys, anyone else want to sort of touch on Newcastle for a little bit, or
I think they're a really smashing bunch. I like them. If they're one of the teams I think that neutrals adhere to and like to watch, and I think their manager is one of the classiest guys that has come into football in the last few years, and he's built a rapport with that huge fan base, which was starved for so long and shortchanged for so long, and he's done it. He hasn't cultivated the crowd like Klopp did. He's just gone and been Eddie. They've taken to him because he's a class guy. He speaks in a measured tone. I mean, I watched the documentary and he did show that behind the scenes. He's not frightened to kind of, give players the pull up. But I just think, Newcastle, what they do. I mean, the decision in Paris last week was an atrocious decision. And that to me was a referee who demanded the spotlight and wanted the drama, really. I thought it was a really appalling decision. And Newcastle were under the cosh and were very defensive that night, but there are different ways to win a football match. You can go and be spectacular 1 minute, you can go and be gritty the next, but they still get you the same result. And I thought Newcastle were really poorly treated by that. But the way they play their football is just, it's a real pleasure to watch. I always kind of think with Newcastle, you're going to get your money's worth. Certainly this Newcastle, it wasn't always the case. In the past, it was always the case that St James's Park is an incredible stadium. I'm going there Boxing Day. Can't wait to go. We're going to get beat, but I'm still looking forward to going. And it's if you love football and you're a world football lover, like I think we all like to think we are.
Yeah.
St James's Park is a mecca. Go and watch a game. I tell you what,
I think it's the best place to go and watch football. Oh, I love it. And
the only thing
walk is a nightmare.
The step. It's long to get up the steps, but it's a fantastic stadium.
Yeah, mate, at my age, at 59, getting up them 140 steps, I am going to go in the disabled lift this year. And you get up to the top of the Leazes, right? And you think to yourself, blimey, the Tyne Bridge is below us. The Seagulls are coming in lower. I mean, we went last year, it was our first game back in the Premier League, and we were looking down and thinking, blimey, there's like a little set of red ants over there and a little set of black and white striped ants over there. And it's an incredible place. They are the most welcoming fans to away fans I've ever known. And I just think the whole thing, they are the absolute antithesis of Manchester United. Manchester United used to have, and Newcastle used to not have, and it's gone the other way now. Newcastle, I tell you what, Newcastle have got that Manchester United haven't got. Newcastle, to me, have got charm, and Manchester United have no charm whatsoever.
Yeah, I see that. I think
the big thing Eddie Howe's done as well, every player at Newcastle pretty much has shown significant improvement since Howe's arrived. Like
they like him, Charlie. They want to play for him. They like him as a person.
Botman's out, but Lascelles has come in. He wasn't really fancied. He's been exceptional. Anthony Gordon's been brilliant and improved since he's come in. Like all these some of the good managers that he's improving players, and pretty much everyone at Newcastle has shown a lot of improvement since Eddie Howe's come in. And what they've done this week has been exceptional in terms of the same team, 3 games on the spin, barely making any subs, and they've put in 3 different performances, but 3 exceptional performances. Like that's a team that's fully behind the manager, that knows what they're doing, that's well drilled. And yes, they were massive. I think they overachieved last season. Coming top 4 was probably a season or 2 ahead of schedule for them. But They're showing this season that they're more than capable, and they'll be right in the mix for the top 4, top 5 spaces again. If they get January right, get the right bodies in, then they can absolutely go. And they've got a very good squad.
They have I agree. I think that's the key bit, right? They have got a good squad, and we know with the owners that they've got, they're going to get a better squad. Let's be honest. They're doing it slowly compared to when Man City went straight in. Robinho, day one, we're getting a big name in. They're doing it a very different way to what
That's
Man
the right
City
way
did.
to do it, though. It's the right way.
They are, but what they're doing is under Eddie Howe, they're building the right players. We're getting bits of quality.
Yeah, maybe putting a lady in charge is the best thing that Newcastle have done, because Amanda Staveley has done a fantastic job. She's done an amazing job at Newcastle. She kind of like dictates the pace of what goes on at Newcastle now. It seems to me, from what I've seen, I might be wrong, but she does it with a light touch, and I just think I used to kind of think when I first saw Amanda Staveley went in there, and I kind of thought, oh, you're riding on the bandwagon. I was a bit skeptical, but I just think she's got a hand on the tiller. She gets on really well with Eddie. They seem to have built really good relationships throughout that football club, inside the club itself, and then with the fans. And that will always. Hello, there's Savva. Look, all the way from Cape Verde. The gaffer's here.
Hang on, now I've got to fix up now. Gosh, that was just messed up.
He's done it to throw Perchy. He's done it to throw you, mate.
Oh, don't. It's fine.
I'm just checking Perchy's. Just checking Perchy's on his toes. That's all.
Welcome, Savva.
He's like the Glazers checking in on Ten Hag, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, that's what it's like, isn't it? Like the boss has just turned up. Now I've got to be on my best behaviour. And look, Savva's welcome Savva along with your awful internet that you've got there, by the way. As always.
Tragic.
Look, I think we can. I think you're right with the whole with Newcastle. I think they're a very, very well run football club. They are gonna improve, and they are gonna get there. Look, I want to slightly move on, topic. Look, Savva's arrived, so we can talk a little bit about Tottenham. There's 3 Tottenham fans taken over Rivals React today. So Spurs, Manchester City. Everyone probably thought Spurs were going to get a bit of a thumping on the weekend. But look, I thought Man City in that first half were sensational, but without taking their opportunities. But second half, Tottenham dug in well and got a result. Listen, it was a result no one expected. Look, I'll start with you, Will. Look, good result yesterday. Not yesterday, so the day before, Sunday. Look, tell me, give me your thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't one that necessarily thought we were going to get thumped. I thought we would lose, but I didn't think we would get thumped. I think I predicted on most shows that I went on 4-3. I thought it was going to be a Champions League semi or quarterfinal scoreline there at the Etihad. I was close. Probably could have been there if they didn't blow the whistle, if the referee didn't change his mind on that advantage that he played. But no, I think that for me, look, there's something going on in Manchester City. I mean, obviously, they're still Manchester City. They're still the favorites for me to win the league and win it probably pretty easily. But there's something going on there right now. I mean, that's 3 draws on the trot. That's 6 points dropped, which you normally don't see, especially back to back to back. And for me, from the Tottenham side of things, look, yeah, I think we're stranglehold with serious injuries, Madison and Van der Ven, and then suspensions as well. We've got, you had Udogie, Basuma, and Romero being in and out of the side over the last 2 to 3 weeks, but we're still playing the football. And as long as, I think for me, while I don't like losing 3 games in a row, as long as we're seeing them play football in the way that the manager wants, then that shows that it's evidence for me that once those players come back that helped us get that 10-game unbeaten run, that we'll see those results again. And if I have that faith that we'll start getting those results again, while we weren't playing perfect football with those players, and we were at least getting results even when we probably shouldn't. That for me gives me confidence that the things are going to be all right once those players get sprinkled back into the side. And
well, it's kind of like, oh, sorry, go on.
No, I mean, that's the way it is. And Postecoglou, I think, just for me, he's You know, people have been questioning him and whether he's doing, you know, the right thing or not. Look, man, I say you got to give the guy a chance. I think he's doing fine. There's a fine line between genius and insanity, and he may cross over that line both directions every now and again. But as long as, look, for me, it's just the feeling, the vibe around the club. It's you. I mean, I want to watch Tottenham again. You know, whereas last year, even though I wasn't personally Conte out. You know, just the whole, I mean, you guys know how it is. Just even in our own fan base, we were at each other's throats. And that culture had been going on for a while. So that having changed as well. I mean, just, you know, channels that hated each other are now working together again. And it's, I mean, it's just, it's that Postecoglou magic is spilled into every avenue of Tottenham. And it's a good place to be right now, in my opinion.
No, Will, I agree. Listen, I think, whatever people think, I think with Postecoglou, I feel like there is a real ethos at this football club that's starting to come back under this manager. I love watching us play. I think there are times when I go, "Whoa, this is crazy," and maybe I'm just slowly getting used to it. But I thought we were brilliant against Man City in that second half. Look, anyone can jump in what you guys thought, because I think. Where do people genuinely think Spurs are going to finish this season? I think some people have us thinking that we're going to be challenged for a title. I think that's a bit over the top right now. Some people think we may not finish in Europe this season. So there's a big depravity on where we think. I think we'll be somewhere in the middle of it. I think we could sneak in and nick a Champions League spot here and there. Does anyone else think that's on point?
I think they'll definitely. I think they're Europe. I think they'll qualify for Europe. Definitely. I think when that spine of like Mickey van der Ven and Maddison and whatever you, and they get their best 11 back on the field. I mean, you know, I think they could quite easily. I mean, I wrote them off going there. I kind of thought they would get a good hiding at City, and that City would have been, you know, annoyed by the previous two results, you know, against Chelsea and Liverpool. But actually, Tottenham were really stoic and un-Spursy like in the second half. That, you know, I thought second half what City did. I don't know if there was talk of complacency. Maybe City kind of thought we're in a dominant position here. We just need to kind of keep playing the football and let things will take care of themselves. Well, Tottenham are having none of that. And I mean, personally speaking, I've been watching Tottenham a lot more closely since my beloved Brennan Johnson, my nephew, left Nottingham Forest to go to Tottenham. And so, and you know, for Roy Keane, of all people, to give them props for their resilience and their doggedness in that game to get a point against, let's be honest, the best team probably in the world at the moment, not far off, I think tells you how much of an improvement Tottenham have made. I mean, I think I was on this show with Savva and a few other people like back in the summer, and I was like really pro Ange Postecoglou, because I always kind of thought to quell the turbulence at Celtic was a hell of a job. That was a you know, an SHIT show when he went in there and he sorted that out. And I kind of thought, you know, I did think maybe has he bitten off more than he could chew with his Tottenham fan base at, like Will says, at each other's throats. But he's gone in there and I think his greatest moment as Tottenham's manager, and he showed to everybody, he showed to the Tottenham squad, he showed to the Tottenham supporters, and he showed to like people who like football across the country. When he was at the press conference and he asked the little boy at the end to stand up and he said, "Your question is more important." And he proved he was a man of the people. And I think the Tottenham lads would have seen that, thought, this is a decent guy we're working with here. Let's go and play for him. And I just think the vibe that Will talks about, that ethos, it's so important. Newcastle have got a great ethos at the moment. Tottenham are getting a better ethos. Aston Villa have got a lovely ethos. These are the teams that are doing well. And I just think Ange Postecoglou's personality is a breath of fresh air, honestly. And I think the top four will be the top three as are at the moment are probably Newcastle, but I think Tottenham will definitely be playing European football of some description next season.
I think the big thing for Spurs is like, will Levy get in his pocket and back him in the January window? Because if Spurs don't sign anyone in January, if Spurs don't bring enough players or any players in January, then for me personally, they can forget qualifying for the Champions League. It's just not going to happen. They just don't have the depth or the quality in depth. So now Levy's got Spurs are in a situation where they've got a good manager, they've got a good ethos, they've got players that want to play for the football club. There's still players that need to go that aren't good enough, but you've got a good first 11, you've got an identity and all these and a feel-good factor coming back. Now is the chance to really push on. You missed the opportunity to push on when you didn't sign any players for 2 windows under Poch. Now you've got an opportunity here to come in, back the manager in January, give him what he wants, and have a really strong finish to the season, and potentially maybe sneak a 4th place, which could be there for the taking when obviously all the players come back again. I just don't know if Levy's got it in him to back Postecoglou. He probably sees like, the fans are quite happy now. I'll keep my money in my pocket and we'll kind of see what happens. If he doesn't back him, then it's going to be a massive problem for Spurs, I think, second half of the season.
Should by 2. Over the last 2 or 3 years,
you guys
we've
hear
gotten
me?
2 everyone's.
Yeah, can hear you now.
Yeah, so I just want to say off the back of what Charlie said, I think the other Spurs fans on the panel will agree with me that this is always the cloud that's hanging over everything. It doesn't matter whether it's Conte, it doesn't matter whether it's Jose, it doesn't matter whether it's Postecoglou. The cloud hanging over it is, will he be backed? What does being back look like? And how much are we willing to go in our pursuit of success? Now, I'm not too bothered about that this season. And what I mean by that is I think a lot of people getting carried away already, like putting the FA Cup. Yeah, that's ours. We've won the FA Cup for a ball's been kicked in the competition. Top 4 definite. I'm not too worried about that. I've said all season, if we can finish even back in the Europa League, Conference League in his first season, the most important thing for me is that he bloods this identity with the players. However, if you get to January and you are within touching distance of the 3 bigger boys above us, and let's be fair, Arsenal, like Dave just alluded to, and hello, Dave, much love, hope you're well. And as Dave just alluded to, the big 3 that are in front of us, if you're within touching distance of them come January, let's see what they're made of, because what you're hearing out of the club and all the noises from the press releases are that it's people like Illing Jr. for 15 million from Juve who can't get a minute of football there, who's just a kid. It's people like Lloyd Kelly. It's people like Yotta on loan. And it's like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. But I'll ask the question, is that enough to take you from where we are now to the next notch up? That's always going to be the question for me. And I'm guessing for most of the people, because I think most people are Levy, Enoch out. So that's the question for me is, what do the club do to back the manager? There's no doubting the guy's got a wonderful philosophy. There's no doubting that all the fans are buying into it. But that only gets you so far. We found that out with Pochettino. It only gets you so far. So for me, the next 3 windows, let's see what the board have got in mind. Let's see how much they actually back him. And then we'll be able to tell whether it's different.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to slightly move on, because I know, Charlie, you've got about 15 or so more minutes left because you've got to run. So I want to talk a little bit of Chelsea quickly, because, look, it went down to 10 men, but you still got a good result against a Brighton side, who I think are a very, very good side. A bit inconsistent, but a good side nevertheless. Look, how do you see this sort of season? Because it is a real roller coaster at Chelsea. Load of injuries, losing games here and there, getting the odd good result here and there. Look, where do you see this under Pochettino? Do you see the longevity under Pochettino, or is this something that could be more short term for somebody else to coming down the line?
No, I can see Poch being here for a number of years. Whether he's going to be the guy that brings the trophies and the titles back, I don't know the answer to that. He could be the guy that sets us up for the next guy to go and do that. But look, I think obviously we're not where we want to be. It's clear that we're 10th in the table. But what I would say is, like, there are clear signs of improvement being made. And the results don't always show that. But, you only have to look back to last season. There was just nothing there in any department at all. And to have what we've got now, we've kind of just reset. We've kind of reset the club from top to bottom. And I think for me, yes, do I want to be winning? Absolutely. Do I want to be high at the table? Absolutely. But I almost feel like because like Chelsea fans like myself and a lot of others have only grown up with ever winning, like there's this sort of almost bit of entitlement that, oh, we shouldn't have to go through a bit of a down period as a football club. Like when you can, like when you say we won everything in the last 20 years, and you're gonna have a couple of down seasons before you win again, everyone would have taken that. But now we're sort of in that position. Everyone's hating it. So like it's one of them where, look, I think we've improved a lot this season compared to last season. It was a low bar. People go on about the Champions League, and I've said myself, look, we need to qualify for the Champions League this season. But if the remit for Pochettino was to qualify for the Champions League, the owners should have given him a squad that was capable of doing that. I'm not saying it 100% isn't, but they've not given him, if they wanted it right now, first season, they've not given him the tools to go and get it first season, because too many of these players aren't at their top level of performance yet, aren't experienced enough. So, like, I like what we're doing. We're going in the right direction. What I was pleased about on Sunday was the fact that we showed some fight and some determination. We dug in, and we didn't collapse. Normally, Chelsea of the last sort of 18 months or so, we would have lost that game. We would have just folded. So we showed a bit of fight. Discipline's an issue. There's back-to-back games now where our captain's been sent off. We've got the most bookings in the league. But I prefer having this approach to what we had last season, where players weren't trying. We were ducking out of 50-50s and it was horrendous. But there is a fine line between showing aggression and making poor decisions. And that's got to be reined in a little bit. But look, it's positive. I feel positive about the club, but at the same time, you always feel a little bit skeptical. You're not sure what you're going to get. Every time you get a good result or a couple of good results, you sort of think, right, can we push on now and get a string of runner wins together? And like when you think that, the next game you sort of come crashing back down to reality. Like we had a couple of good results, go up to Newcastle, implode. We got a decent win against Brighton, and now we go to Man United, and then we go to Everton, and you're thinking, right, if we can just get a couple of wins here, 2 games which are winnable, 100%, then like we're clawing ourselves back into contention. But I just still think there's too much of an element of inconsistency, and the discipline is going to be a problem as well. Not to mention the injuries we've got. I know everyone has injuries, but everyone else's injuries seem to get highlighted a lot more than ours in the media. We've had big problems all season with injuries. It's not an excuse; it happens. But it's kind of funny how Chelsea's injury plight doesn't get highlighted anywhere near as much as Brighton's or Spurs's or Newcastle's. So like it's one of them. But for me, I think we're going in the right direction, but there's no escaping the fact that we have to get more points on the board as quickly as possible.
True.
Yeah. No, Charlie, I agree. I think with the injury one, I do agree with you, because I hear a lot of when Chelsea lose a game of football, it's Chelsea have lost. Like when I used to try and be as fair and honest with that, I said, they go, well, hang on, they're missing 12 first. They're missing 12 top players, and players are having to just fill in, and they go, well, yeah, they've got loads of players, but that's not a realistic answer, right? Like if you're losing the likes of Reece James, Chilwell, who was the lad at centre half you lost? There was one, Badiashile went out for a long time, if I'm right in saying. Fofana was out, is still out injured.
We got 10 players missing for the game tomorrow at United. I'm not making excuses. We got 10 missing, and most of those players are players that would either start or they'd be on the bench as good options.
Yeah,
and we just don't have that. It's not excuses, but it is strange. It's funny, but I just don't think the media particularly like Chelsea. Never really have, and it's one of them where they just don't seem to take that into consideration. But it is what it is. It happens to everyone. We just got to turn up and perform. We've got a good enough team with what's available to be able to win the matches that we've got coming up.
Do you fancy your chances against Man United right now? As we started the show off about Man United and all of the sort of off-field drama there is going on with Man United. Is this exactly the right time to play Man United and try and get a result there?
Well, mate, we haven't won there. We haven't won at Old Trafford for 10 years. The last time we won there, Juan Mata scored for us. So he's been to he's left Chelsea, played Man United, and now he's in Japan doing his thing, and we still haven't won a game there. So it's one of those ones. It's weird, like where every team seems to have a ground or a team where they don't do that well against. We haven't actually beaten United since 2017 in the league in general. So it's just one of those where I should feel confident going into this game. I feel more confident going in on the back of a win. But, with United being so bad, like you'd expect to win this game. But then given our record there, it would just be typical for Rashford to start scoring a few goals and them to sort of turn in their best performance of the season. So given we've not won there for 10 years, I feel, I don't know if I can sit here and say that we're going to win this game, but I think for me, if we're ever going to end that 10-year wait, this is going to be as good a chance as we'll potentially ever get to get it done. So, I mean, there's no excuses for not winning this game, really. I've got to be honest, there's no excuses not to win this game. Man United are there for the taking. No players are in that good a form at all. We just got to go for it. You know, for me, there's no excuses not to win tomorrow. As simple as that.
It's tomorrow, isn't it? Are you going? Is the next question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I'll be there, mate. I'm always at the games. I'll be there. I'll be at Old Trafford Wednesday. I'll be at Everton on Sunday. It's a busy week.
It is a nightmare getting out of Old Trafford on a late kickoff like that.
Right,
I'll tell you, I did it once and then got home at 1 or 2 in the morning after really just about making kickoff because there was an accident on the way up there.
Long. It's been the last 3 seasons. It's been a midweek game, evening kickoff as well. It's not the one. But
definitely.
I think we can win, but like there's for me like if we don't win, there's no excuses for me. Like it's like you have to go there and win. It's simple as that for me.
Yeah. Look, Dave as well. I'll bring you in on this one. Like I look at Chelsea right now, and I think they get. Listen, being a Spurs fan, rivals. So I'll park the rivalry bit for a second. I think they do get a bit of a bad rap, and I actually agree with Charlie. I think when we hear injuries and stuff, and they've got loads of injuries. No one ever really brings up Chelsea, and I sit there and go, hang on a minute, they've got a whole squad out injured at the moment. And I sit back and just think, do people say they don't bring that up because they signed a load of players, they've spent £1 billion, so it's sorry me kind of feeling. Well, you spent all that money and you got a load of injuries, right? But these are individuals, right? If you lose, it doesn't matter. We talk about all the money in football and stuff, but these are people, right? When you lose, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you lose 10, 12 players, like that's horrendous, right?
You know what, Perchy? There's a truism in life. You can chuck as much money at it as you like, but it's still no cast iron concrete guarantee of anything. We've got it at the moment. You know, our owner's thrown 200 million at us. Yeah, so what? Big gamble. It might work, it might not. You don't know. I've thrown 200 million at it. Oh, well, who knows? Now, Chelsea, the rods Chelsea have kind of made for their own back. There's two. One is that they were so poor last year that they kind of, they just kind of stank the place out, Chelsea. I remember we got a 2-2 draw there at the end of last season when we were battling relegation, and we came away thinking, wow, that wasn't as much of a daunting task as we thought it was. I also went to Stamford Bridge when we won 1-0, at the start of the season when we were on our bad day. And that was it. And Chelsea that day, it's almost like Forest went, tell you what, let's let them have the ball because they're not going to do anything with it. And Chelsea wove some pretty patterns and went nowhere. So the way they played last season has driven a lot of people to kind of say, oh, well, they got to get in their comeuppance a little bit. And then there's this £1 billion thing, which it's not the players' fault, but that's a millstone around their neck. So people just see in short term £1 billion and they kind of think, well, then everything in the garden should be rosy. But life doesn't work like that. And these are, it's a large squad. A lot of it is kind of new and unfamiliar. If you like, it is going to take time. The proviso being, the caveat being that the Chelsea support are not prepared to give them that time. They'll never ever get that time from the Chelsea support.
Dave, can I just add really quickly? First of all, a few people have mentioned that I look pissed. I haven't even had a drink today, so I'm really not. I've just had a couple's massage, so I've not had a drink yet. Just quickly, Dave, you make a really good point because I think the immature fan amongst us says things like, "Oh, it doesn't matter if they've got injuries; they spent £1 billion." But let's be brutally honest, right? The £1 billion they've spent is literally what they've done is they built a squad in 3 windows, as opposed to what most clubs would probably take 7 or 8, 9 or 10 to change an entire squad. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're worth £200 million and get injured, or whether you're a free transfer and get injured. Injuries happen to everyone. It doesn't matter how much you cost if you get injured. You're no good to anyone if you're injured. Yeah. Look, I keep bringing this up so many times. Every club has to deal with injuries. Chelsea have had a shed load of them. Newcastle got loads of them now. Man,
Palace, Palace have had to put up with. They've had an unbelievable injury list.
Palace have, Brentford had, Spurs in the last couple of weeks have had to put up with it as well. So I've never been one of those that looks at a club and goes, "Oh, you've got loads of injuries. That's terrible." Yeah, I think you get a period of grace where if you've got too many of your best players out for too many games, then yes. But look, I think Chelsea are a funny team. I don't know if Charlie will agree with me on this. I think Chelsea are a really strange team because if you actually remove the defeat last week to Newcastle, as Charlie said, imagine that had been a draw. You're now sitting there looking at Chelsea going, okay, well, they've battered Tottenham. They got a point against the champions. They then get a point or a win against Newcastle and they beat Brighton. Isn't it funny that all of a sudden, if they hadn't have been battered by Newcastle in that time, people would be saying, look at the run of form Chelsea are on.
Yeah.
And that's one game. That's one game in the middle of all those games.
Even if you look at those last four, Savva, you look at Spurs 1. We had Spurs, Man City, Newcastle, and Brighton at home, right? If you said we'd win 3 of those and lose 1, you'd probably expect that. And yet, you know, the Newcastle game was bad, yeah, sure. But then people start questioning us, think we lost 1 game in 4, and we've had 3 very tough games, and you would have expected to have lost to Newcastle, Spurs, or Man City. So I think we are in good
Charlie,
form.
Everyone was predicting you guys were going to lose all of those. Like everyone was going, oh my God, look at Chelsea's running. And, you know, I've not been saying a lot. I've been just sitting in the background reading a lot of the comments. And I find it so funny that depending on who somebody supports depends on their version of who has the worst injury list, who has the most suspensions. Like all of a sudden now I'm saying Spurs have the worst injury list. Like hell do Spurs have the worst injury list? No, we don't. Like Palace 3 weeks ago were missing Eze, Elise, Decore, Henderson. So they were missing their best goalkeeper, their best central midfielder, and their 2 best forwards. No one talks about it because it's Palace. When it's Spurs, all our fans go, oh my God, our 3 or 4 best players are out. Well, yeah, it happens to all clubs, right? Newcastle right now are facing it massively. Chelsea are. Man United, as much as no one likes Man United.
Luton Town's injury list.
Luton, Brentford. Everyone's got an injury list. But look, Chelsea, I think I've said this to you loads of times, Charlie. I think you've got to make sure as a club you get to the end of this season with Pochettino intact.
We have to.
For me, you cannot afford to see another manager go because the fans are impatient. And then the next manager's thinking, oh my God, I get 15 or 16 games. And if I haven't implemented a philosophy and won a trophy, I'm out. So, yeah, I think Chelsea will be fine. But this isn't the Chelsea of old. People keep talking about it like you are the Chelsea of old. You're not. And I think your fan base needs to come, not you, I know you're level-headed with this. Your fan base needs to come to terms with that you are not the team that just win every year now. You are like the rest of us that are building, growing, putting a team together.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally agree. Like, there's got to be a shift in the fan base, but you I don't want to disrespect younger fans, but you know, people that haven't seen Chelsea not be that good don't really understand what it's like to be shit and then sort of a bit of a tantrum about it. And that's just, I think it happens with every team.
Charlie, I remember Bonetti, Mulligan, McCready, Harris, Osgood, Hudson, Kemba, Dempsey, you know, all these guys. I mean, that great Chelsea. I've grown up with lots of Chelsea teams. This one, I tell you what, this game tomorrow night is the Enigma Derby because these are the 2 big enigmas of clubs in this division. Manchester United and Chelsea. They're kind of, without any disrespect to them, they're both great clubs. But without any disrespect to them, they are kind of at the moment shadows of what they've been previously. I personally think that United are sort of trending a little bit downwards and Chelsea are trending a little bit upwards. I mean, if you like the great point, if you take Reece James's sending off out of the last 4 games, it might have been an unbelievably really good, brilliant run. They, you know, that night again, Chelsea, right? All of a sudden, Chelsea, from being fairly unremarkable, have then featured in one of the great games of all, 2 of the all-time great Premier League games, the one at Tottenham and the one at home to Manchester City. They could have got something at Newcastle. Had Reece not been silly boy, fetching Anthony Gordon, I think it was down. They could have got something there. And then they beat I saw Brighton up close and personal last week, and they're an excellent side who play good football. So with Chelsea, I just feel with Chelsea, the bits that have all been up in the air are beginning to kind of fall to earth and then are beginning to come into place. I mean, my guess was it's tomorrow night. It's the most unpredictable match of all of them this week.
I agree with that 100%.
But my tendency would be to think Chelsea would win it.
Steve, can I just ask? Sorry, I've just seen someone put in the chat that you've only got 3 first-team injuries. I'm pretty sure when I looked at Newcastle's list, you've got like players in every position in the park missing. Am I going mad?
No, you're not going mad. We have a starting 11 out right now. Nick Pope in goal, Manquillo right back, Butman, Dan Burn, Target, midfield 3 of Elliot Anderson, Joe Willock, and Longstaff. And then a front 3 of Harvey Barnes, Callum Wilson, and Jacob Murphy.
And Tonali is well suspended. So
Tonali's not allowed to play, is he? Of course.
Who'd have bet on that?
The reason, just quickly on the Newcastle injuries, because we're all talking about it. I'm looking at everyone's injuries, by the way. Brighton, look at their damn list. They got a lot out too. Brentford, like Savva said earlier, they got Hickey, Rico, Shot, all these guys. With Newcastle, injuries might not affect the first team, but it's called squad depth. And it's kind of hopeful when you're playing Carabao Cup, FA Cup is huge against the Mackems, Jesus Christ, and then Champions League and Premier League. So it's like, that is the reason why. Because our first 11 actually are playing really well. Like, they look like the first team out. I would not mind if Tino Livramento is our starting left back from here on out, with all due respect to Dan Burn.
Steve.
Yeah, go on.
So I just want to say, because Charlie has to run, so I just want to say, just hold what you're going to say. Charlie, thank you so much for coming on. Absolute pleasure. Always welcome on here, my friend. Thank you very much.
Nah,
love you, Charlie.
Guys. Enjoy the rest of the show. Cheers, lads.
Cheers, mate.
Charlie. Take care, mate.
Hang on, let me.
Steve, I just find it so funny, guys, that, like, honestly, if I just sit here and read the comment sections, right, I know what channel I'm in. Like, I'm in a Spurs channel, so to speak. I could go to another channel, read the comments, and go, yeah, I'm in a Arsenal fan base. Like, the excuses that are made for your own club versus the excuses for other teams' clubs are just hilarious. Like, Newcastle fighting on all 4 fronts. With 12 first team squad players out injured. Oh, but it's nothing compared to ours. Why not? Like, why? I don't understand why ours is so different to everyone else's.
I've been on several different shows with Newcastle fans lately, and the Newcastle fans that I've talked to have said that the injuries that are out, most of them aren't their best players.
What, Botman?
They said that the defender that's playing now there in that position now,
what
starts with an L.
Jamal Lascelles. Newcastle fans have been telling me they want to get rid of him for years.
Oh yeah,
He's a Forest.
He's done a complete 180. Lascelles, complete.
Yeah, but Will, that's not factual, is it? If you think Langstaff, every game I watch Newcastle, Langstaff is starting in centre mid. Yeah. If you look, Harvey Barnes has been playing all season. Sven Botman is their best centre half. Dan Burn is their starting left back for the last few years. Nick Pope's now injured, who's their first choice goalkeeper. Willock. How much football does Willock play? Do you know what I mean? These are a lot of first team footballers that Newcastle got out injured.
It's a bummer with Willock because he's probably out of our midfield options when everyone's fit. He's probably the best, like, kind of playmaking number 8 sort of guy. So he gives us a different look. But yeah, you're right, Savva, with the injuries, it's been tough to get him on the pitch. But.
Look, Steve, my point isn't for Newcastle. My point is it's every club. Every fan base talks about their own club having the deepest injuries. And I don't think it's true. I think every club is going through this. Brentford have 9 first-team players out. Now, just imagine Brentford with that small squad, don't spend a lot of money. You could argue that their 9 first-team players are out are more drastic than Spurs and Newcastle having first team players out because they've got a smaller squad. They haven't spent money. So it's all, it's all relative.
Like,
but
it's all relative.
It's almost like people want to be competitive. We've got more injuries than you. No, you haven't. Yes, we have. You know what I mean? It kind of gets a bit.
That's why I just don't bother.
Doesn't it?
And you know what? The other thing why I don't moan about our injuries and stuff, because somehow, some way, we still can get some decent results, like beating Chelsea 4-1, then going to Paris Saint-Germain and getting a 1-1 draw, and then winning 1 over Man United. So I know that even despite the injuries, yeah, it's great to have them on the squad, and that would be helpful.
But like, Steve, the difference is as well, Spurs are playing once a week. So when we're talking about our injuries, right, we're talking about what's our best 11. When you're in the Champions League, you're going to have to rotate players. That's why. So your injury list is going to be different to ours for different reasons, different squad players. I just think fans use it too much. Fans use it too much. You have a whole summer, every summer, to go and buy depth. Spurs didn't. I've got no sympathy. Newcastle, by the way, I've got no sympathy for Newcastle. Newcastle have had years now with these owners. That's the squad you've got. You're doing well with it. I've got no sympathy for Arsenal when they get injuries, for City when they get injured. I don't have sympathy for Chelsea United. Injuries are part of football. You get on with it. For me, that's just me.
Next man up.
You only got 3 from the looks on SofaScore. This guy's getting out lucky. Only Felipe, who's fantastic, by the way. Awaniwi, who again is awesome, and Boli is doubtful. I like Boli as well.
Right, but I think what the other Newcastle fan, I can't remember what channel he was from. He's an English lad. I can't remember, but basically he was saying like the team that started against United, there was only three first team starters out of that squad, right? The left back, center back, and in the center mid.
But to be honest, Will, I would start Tino Livramento now based on his performances. Like
he looks good, Livramento. I like him.
Based on what I saw,
saying that's what his point was on the injuries. Right? He said we've only really got 3 starters out.
They'd all be first team starts for Manchester United.
Oh yeah, Tino.
Will, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. For me, when you've got injuries, I think it I know this sounds really obvious. It should allow somebody to come into the team and stake their claim for a place, right? So I'll ask you, we've seen Sarr miss the last couple of games. From what you've seen in the last couple of games, would you keep Lo Celso in the team above Sarr from what you've seen?
Well, I mean, they play in completely different positions. Lo Celso's playing in that Madison role, right? So would I keep...
Sure, but we can play around with that, right? Like with Basuma going deeper.
I would keep Kulu in that right center mid role over Sarr right now, the way he's played over the last 2 games. But I wouldn't put Skip in there over Sarr.
I didn't watch much of that Spurs City game because I was watching the Leverkusen Dortmund game. Who was your man at match for you guys out of Spurs?
Oh, Kulusevski for me. I thought Kulusevski was brilliant.
Kulusevski.
I thought
the
Celso gets a shout out. I thought Kulu playing Kulusevski down the middle, he's much better. He's much more involved in football.
He doesn't need to have the pace. If you're central, it's about being a good playmaker.
Technically, Kulusevski's a very good football player. He's very good when he's under that sort of close quarter down the middle. When he gets out wide, I feel he gets very, very lost in games of football, and it's very easy for him.
Ineffective.
Very ineffective.
I don't think
there was one truly outstanding Tottenham individual on the day, but as a unit, they all played for each other. They all got stuck in. They all dug in. You know, Brennan did his bit. Kulusevski did his bit. Sonny did his bit. The guys behind did that. They all did that bit to make the sum of the parts something greater than they probably were. And I just thought, you know, if I'd have been Ange Postecoglou walking off there, having done that, given the way that the game was sort of like penduluming, that's a bad word, I know, but you know what I'm saying? To get a point there, having lost the previous 2, I thought Spurs were a real credit.
I could tell you who the worst players were, but
there was a few poor players.
I saw Will Stewart on a show yesterday saying that Brian Hill should have got man of the match. I'm pretty sure it was you, Will.
No, it definitely wasn't me. I think I even said I want Richarlison to come back in and start at that left wing place. At least he won't spend. I mean, it's Richarlison, so he might spend as much time on the floor rolling around as Brian Hill, but it'll be from his own doing rather than being knocked over.
Desperate time.
Can I ask? Can I ask Perchy, Sav, Will? You know, my nephew is playing for you. My little favourite is now playing for you, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with the fact that he's in white, not red. What is the take on my nephew? How's he doing?
Literally your nephew. I thought you were literally.
Brennan,
meh.
Look, go on, will you start? Go on, mate.
I mean, for me, it's just meh. Like he's not been great and he's not been bad. So for me, it's a time of just wait and see. Like, how much time does he need to I guess you could say, warm his legs up and get into the stride of what we're doing and who he's playing with. I think there's times that he looks really good, and then there's times where it's like, I don't know, right? So when I compare him to other players that we've had, for example, is he better for us than Danjuma was when he came in for a few months? Yes. Is he better than Brian Hill was? Yes. Is he better than Solomon? I don't know yet, right? Like, because Solomon only played 2 games, and in those 2 games, Solomon looked half decent as far as creativity was concerned, and it's just a tough one. It's a tough one, especially at Tottenham, because while we're not a big club in the trophy sense, I think that the expectations are a bit higher, and so when you're not, when your productivity doesn't come in that final third, fans get a little bit, squirmish. So
what I would say with Brennan Johnson, I think I'm very open with the way I have my feelings with him. I said I think it's very hard to judge him until I see him play consistently out on the right. I think at Forest, Dave, he was very comfortable out on the right-hand side.
Yeah, he was,
very good on the right. He came into this squad and he's been playing out on the left, which fine, but I don't think it benefits him. What he's very good at is very quick on the right-hand side, beating a fullback and getting into the box and stuff. And we saw a little bit of that against Vardy against Man City when he was out on the right. So for me, I think the jury's still out for me on him because I think it would be very, very harsh for me to judge a player playing in a different position than he has naturally played in. I use the comparison. It would be like me sitting there judging players like a Højbjerg playing as a number 10 when he's not a creative football player. So it's like I use it very, very in that sort of context. So I think for me, I think you've got to give him a season to bed in, new team, new surroundings and stuff. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I actually think it's going to come well with him. I think you have to find the right system for him. I think he has to play on the right. I think I've seen a lot of him out on the right, and I've seen a lot better performances from him on the right-hand side than I've seen him on the left, personally.
Look, listen, Perchy, I need to shoot in 2 minutes, so I'll just give my 2 pence on Dave's nephew, as he likes to call him. I kind of agree with both what Will and Perchy said. It's difficult. I don't think he's played enough football so far for me to sit there and say, God, he's brilliant, or oh, he's rubbish. What I have noticed about him, I don't see him a lot in games, but he comes up with a moment. So I don't know if the other two Spurs fans on the panel will agree with that. I think that in all the games I've watched, I feel like he's been really underwhelming, Dave. And then all of a sudden, a moment, and you're like, "Oh, that was good." But I do massively. I'm not just because we run the channel together. I do massively agree with Perchy. Still, I know he got the cross from the left on Sunday. But I don't see him as a left-sided winger. I don't see him as somebody that gets on the ball and scares his fullbacks enough. I want to see him on the right. I saw someone in the chat put that he'll be better than Anthony Gordon by the end of the season. Now, listen, that's a guy that I watch and I think, you're involved all game. Anthony Gordon is involved all game, gets on the ball, beats players on the outside, cuts in on the inside, runs at people, gets in the box. Look, very early to judge Johnson.
Exactly.
But listen, he's done some good bits for us, and he doesn't look fit. I'll be honest. Whenever I watch him play, I always think he looks out of gas. I don't know what anyone else thinks. I think he looks a bit like he's always coming back from an injury every week, if you know what I mean.
Like Maggie, a bit hesitant, maybe.
Just almost like he always looks like he needs to be subbed off. Like, do you know what I mean? He just looks like he's got an engine.
And Anthony Gordon, like you said, he doesn't ever. He. I can't remember the last time Anthony Gordon didn't start and play the full 90 for Newcastle, and it's December. I think he's rested. But that guy is playing game in, like midweek and Premier League as well. So
his development has been frankly insane.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
I
Because
think
they
most,
say,
I think most. I just remember in the summertime when we were linked with Anthony Gordon, that most Spurs fans were taking the piss out of him.
I was a doubter too. I was like, but then again, I didn't watch enough Everton, so maybe I was.
And Harvey Barnes was keeping him out for a while. So he's
for a minute.
I mean, I'd look at him and I think I saw him for Everton last year, and even then I kind of thought he had something about it. He took me by surprise at Goodies that day. But he's gone to another level, and he's becoming a really. And the thing is, you go back to the Newcastle board. They identified him. This is the one guy we want more than anybody else, and they put their neck on the line. And now they're getting a return on that sort of emotional and financial investment. And I think he's tremendous. But the thing is, we've already got fantastic forwards playing for England, but he's going to be in there at some point.
He's thinking about going to Scotland. He's thinking about switching allegiance to Scotland. Well, not switching because he has.
Who's this? Sorry,
Anthony Gordon. He might.
Yeah.
Southgate is just refusing to give him any call-ups or anything. So it'd be interesting if he picked Scotland. But Dave, I was just going to ask you about Brennan Johnson. When he first joined you guys, I forget where he joined from, but did it take him for a minute? Did it take Brennan Johnson a minute to kind of, when he first got into the Forest squad, to like?
What happened?
What happened?
Well, what happened with him was he got a little bit of game time under Chris Hughton, I think it was, and then he went on loan to Lincoln. And he sort of had a slow start at Lincoln, but then he kind of tore the doors off, and I think he scored a bag full of goals. Lincoln got to the playoff final and were unlucky to get beat by Blackpool. He then came back, and again Hughton was in charge, and I think the idea was that Hughton didn't think he was sort of up to playing in the Championship. We had a change of management, and Steve Cooper decided, I've got to go with this guy. I tell you what happened. There was a game between Hughton leaving and Cooper being officially appointed, where Forest went to Huddersfield. We were bottom. We had 1 point from a possible 24 or 21, something like that. And the interim management team of Stephen Reid and Warren Joyce played a 3-4-3 or something at Huddersfield. And Brennan Johnson, literally from out of nowhere, just blasted past Huddersfield's defence, put a cross in, Lewis Grabban scored. And it's almost like from that point, he just was on this upward trajectory. And then he ended up as the young player of the season in the Championship. But to answer your question, Steve, it wasn't an overnight thing. I mean, generally, I tend to think there are very few overnight sensations in football. It took Brennan a while. The answers I got to my question about Brennan at Tottenham were kind of what I expected. With Brennan, he's still only 22. It's a potential thing. He now, like Will said, and like Savva said, like Perchy said, he's got to prove that there's more substance to it. And my view is that as he gets to 23, 24, 25, he's not at his peak yet, but he's learning. I know for a fact, because I was lucky enough to meet his mum and dad, and they were saying to me, after the weekend, because he put the cross in for Postecoglou to score, which was great, and I was really pleased for him. And I sort of said, the impression I get is he's really enjoying learning at this great club with all these great professionals. And I think, he's just at the start of his Tottenham journey, but I think he'll get better. Whether he's going to play consistently week in, week out yet, time will tell, and that's up to him. But I just think, it's. I definitely think there's some real potential.
I think we trust him enough. We trust him enough. Like for me, I trust Brennan Johnson enough that I would rather see Kulu play in that midfield role now, especially with the injuries that we have, until Madison comes back. He's got that right wing starter spot for me, right? So, for example, I can't say that on the left, right? Like the left is such a mess right now on that left-hand side who starts in that left-handed role that there's no one that I really trust. Like I trust that Brennan is going to do a good enough job on that right that Kulu can play in the midfield and be better. Because for me with Kulusevski, and I think that Kulusevski is the kind of player, there's a lot of players that start in their careers or in their youth careers as number 10s, attacking midfielders. and they grow up and they develop going both directions, being able to go right and being able to go left. And a lot of times those players, because they're so good on the ball, or maybe they're technical or whatever, they get shoved out on the wings for teams that maybe lack some quality out wide, right? Because the manager thinks they can do a job. And I think Kulusevski falls in that vein. I think when you take away his ability to go both directions, you're limiting his game. And I think there are some players that are more free to be able to go left and right, rather than being stuck to one side and being only able to cut back in one direction over and over and over again. They get very predictable because they're used, in their mind, it's like, I want to go right and left, but now I can't. And so they second guess themselves. And I think for me, that's what because Kulu said himself that he would rather, his dream is, he grew up as an attacking midfielder. Number 10 is the role that he wants to play. Yeah. You know, he can do a job out on the wing, but that's not really what he feels has the most fun in, right? And football is about enjoyment, even when you're a professional and you've been doing it for, 10 years. So at the top level.
Bale. Because some guys just don't really. Some guys do look at it straight up as a job, like Gareth Bale, who's like, "Oh, I like golf. I'm not really a."
Well, Gareth Bale. I mean, even Masala, when he's forced out wide, when Nunez starts and occupies that space that he normally falls into, he's just not as effective as he is when he can just do whatever he wants. Right? There's some players that just need that freedom. Yeah, and I think that in order to shine, and so I trust Brendan enough that that for me, Kulu's got to be starting in that right 8. Lo Celso on the left, Basuma in the 6, but when he plays on the left hand side, I see that he's kind of limited now, right? So it's almost like you're taking an aspect of Brennan Johnson's game away, the comfort of being on his strong foot. I mean, there's not many players in the league that can play as well with both feet. You know what I mean? And he hasn't been bad on the left. Like, I would take him on the left over Brian Hill, but there's other players. I think Manor Solomon looked more convincing creatively on the left than Brennan Johnson has at times. But that's kind of my So it's not horrible. It's not a horrible. He's definitely not a horrible. He's not somebody that I'm disappointed in, right? Like, because we have a right back that you guys can have back if you want. In Jay Spence. Absolute disappointment. Right?
Well, the thing is, mate, I mean, we still can't get our heads around what's going on. I mean, he was absolutely outstanding for us in our promotion year, and now he's like warming a bench in Leeds. And I mean, the lad made the way we look at it, the lad made his choice, and that's the bedding. Now he has to lie in it. You know what I mean? So I don't know what kind of advice he got, but there you go.
He might just be a one-season wonder. Sometimes those are just how it goes.
I want to sort of finish up. We're going to wrap up very, very shortly. I just want to give Dave his dues because Forest lost to Everton on the weekend. Look, Dave, I think for you guys, I think let's be fair with it. I think staying into the division is the goal, right? I think we're all fair in that sort of judgment. I don't think I don't think that Forest will go down. I think Forest are.
I think you're pretty safe.
They're the 6th worst team in the league. So I think they'll be safe enough, comfortably. They'll be comfortable enough to stay up this season. But I want to know what from you and what the sort of Forest fans think, because I want to end the show on this. Obviously, you've been kind enough to come onto the show. So let's talk about your boys for a bit. Look, talk to me. Like, lost to Everton. Are Everton a bit of a worry because they got their 10-point deduction? Now, they are languishing in the relegation zones, but are they going to catch you guys, or do you think you guys will just have enough to stay up this season?
Well, the first thing to say is that Saturday was the first time that Forest have comprehensively stunk the place out. They were awful from start to finish. Truly abysmal. Murillo, an honourable exception. That's a kid who's only played a year's worth of professional football, and he was our leading light. But the rest was just gloom and darkness. It was awful. And we're on a poor run. And I was asked before the game on a couple of channels, what do you think will happen? And I said, I think Everton will win this because Deitch will do the strongman stuff in the dressing room. He'll say to them, they've taken 10 points off you. The whole world is against you. This lot can't defend set pieces and are on a poor run. They don't have Taiwo Wanyi. That they're not likely to score against you. They're not going to threaten
That's a big loss.
Tarkowski or Branthwaite. So I thought, and I said it, consistently. I thought Everton would beat Forest at the weekend. Now the thing with our fan base is it is more riven now this year than it was last year. So what you've got a faction that wants the manager changed, right? Which is, it's all opinions. They're all valid. Have your opinion. There's a faction that want the manager changed, and I think it's a developing faction. Last year it was a minority. Last year it was a very small minority that got a little bit angsty when we were in bad runs, but then it all came together because we stayed up. This year, that faction, that anti-faction, if you like, is more vocal, and I think it's more numerous. And I think if Forest are not careful, it's going to become sort of like, a half and half split in the fan base. Now, they're over there saying that he's reached his ceiling, he can take it no further, and the other lot are over there saying, well, he took us from this position of complete oblivion and wilderness to where we are now.
Right?
So basically, the issue is some people don't think he can get any better than he is. Some people think, based on his track record, he is the guy. And that's where it is at the moment. Me personally, I mean, I was scarred for like 20 odd years of utter embarrassment of a revolving door and one mediocrity being replaced by another mediocrity, thinking to myself, we'll never ever get anybody in who's going to do anything at this club.
Stability.
And all of a sudden this guy comes and we're bottom of the league, and now we are where we are. Now, what I would say is that there's a different expectation about Forest this year from, I think, the majority of the fan base. They want to see progression and a step on from what happened last year. Last year was just about staying up, right?
Yeah.
Now this year they want to beat Palace. That's what they want. They want that mid-table anonymity of Palace that Palace have made. Fair play to Palace, right? But then further down the line, and certainly our owner he covets what Brighton and Hove Albion have got. So stability, cocking a snook at the big guns, and playing European football. That's what he wants. Now my view is that, again, there are no cast iron concrete guarantees. My view, and people will say, well, Dave, you're not very ambitious. You really should be expecting more. I just want to stay a Premier League club because it's this second season syndrome is difficult. I think what's happened is there's a feeling of ennui set into the club. By that, I mean, we had the novelty of first season back, and now we're getting to the point where there's kind of a slight conceit. We should be beating Sheffield United. We should be beating Luton. We should be beating Burnley, Brentford, Everton, and all that kind of thing. And maybe we should, based on our heritage and our status and all this kind of thing. Right. But I think it takes time. And I think that we need to keep feet on the ground and not start thinking that we're better than we are. I mean, my view is we're still not yet an established Premier League team. I saw last year as a 38 game pre-season. We brought that many players in, and the turnover of players is continuing, and it's a really difficult task. So personally, I think I do think we're better than we were last season. Last season we were just desperately trying to be in games. This year we've been in games. The issue being, though, that there are a lot of opportunities that have been missed and a lot of points left out on the pitch, and that's where the great frustration sets in. And quite rightly, I've been to every game. And there are times when you come out and think, oh, we should have won that. Oh,
Yeah.
But this we should statement smacks of a divine right. And you've got no divine right. You've got no divine right.
But I think it comes from the fact that you guys are actually scoring quite a few goals, right?
Yeah.
You're scoring against teams that are, far better than you, in my opinion, like Aston Villa, for example. And for that reason, I can understand why your fan base might feel a little bit of angst, right? Because it's not that you're not playing good football. You're just not getting the results in games where you thought you should have. Like you've drawn far more than I think you should have. Like I haven't watched a lot of Forest this year, but the games that I have watched, there were times where I felt like, Forest probably should have gotten that one. You know what I mean? And And if that happens on the regular, you're gonna angst is gonna build in the fan base.
Yeah,
right?
do you know what? Well, you've just done a brilliant sort of psychometric analysis of the Nottingham Forest fan base, because that's exactly what's happening. It's like kind of 2 up at Old Trafford, got beat, win at Chelsea, really should have won at Palace, and bless them, Palace were really suffering with injuries. Morgan hit the post, Murillo had that great run, and again, we give a glimpse by winning against at Stamford Bridge. We give a glimpse by winning really nicely against Villa at home.
Yeah.
And then we could have got something from Brighton. We won Ryan Yates' header away from a draw against a team who, frankly, were better than we were for most of that game. And I think it's that it's kind of, I tell you where Forest are. They're in a bit of a hinterland. They want to move on. So last year they came up. They tried to play the expansive stuff they played in the Championship. They got cut to ribbons. So Forest then went, right, this is not going to work. We'll have to play in a way that we don't really want to. And they became dull and they became dour and they played the low block, and the low block kept them up. I'm sure the board, the coaching staff, the players, and we as fans, we all wanted to see, right, we've done that now. Let's try and be a little bit more developed and advanced from that. But I still don't think Forest are quite capable yet of taking a game and controlling it through. We aren't good enough at keeping the ball. It clearly isn't. It isn't, our bag yet. I don't think at the moment with Taiwo out, I don't think we've got a goal scorer that's going to put any fear into anybody. With Taiwo missing, he's become a real focal point for us. I don't think we've yet got a midfielder who can dictate the tempo of a game, a playmaker. We haven't got anybody who can thread a pass and open a defence up. We've got guys who are kind of good lads at doing what they do, but they don't have the one player I think everybody looks at. You look at Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, what I say about Morgan is he's trying things, but then sometimes he tries things that don't come off, and then he gets criticised for it. Well, my view is keep trying it, Morgan, because what Morgan Gibbs-White does, it seems to me, is he knows that it was a big fee paid for him. He was kind of brought in to be the X factor player, and I think he's trying that. He gives everything for the team. Some weeks it comes off, some weeks it doesn't. I just think Forest, it's almost like the evolution of Forest has taken place at such a pace that now they've kind of gone forward so fast from bottom of the Championship to this, that to kind of settle down and be, comfortable in their own skin, is really difficult. But what I would say is the factor that none of us really know about, I don't know about. So those who want Steve Cooper to stay, they don't know it. Those who want Steve Cooper to go, they don't know it either. So we're all united in that we don't know what Mr. Evangelos Marinakis is going to do. He might be sitting there thinking, well, I've invested all this money. This isn't good enough. And time for a change. And that's his prerogative. And we're all really, we can talk and we can spray hot air into the ether, but we have no power over it. We can have our views. So the whole fan base, there might be some over here saying one thing, some over here saying another, but we're all united in our powerlessness. And it's Mr. Marinakis' view. Now, I think if we I'm going to Craven Cottage tomorrow night. If we go to Craven Cottage tomorrow night and then Molineux on Saturday, and there's no discernible pickup from what happened against Everton, which was truly dreadful. It was just rank from start to finish. Far worse than the Brighton or anything like that. Then I think Steve Cooper might, he's on a hot seat, I think. Whether the ice under that hot seat thins anymore, I'll only be able to tell you, in the next week or 2 weeks. It is a results-driven business. So I love the guy. I never thought, right, I'll be honest with you, lads, I never thought I would see my club back in the Premier League, and certainly not when we were bottom of the Championship. So I've got this great affection for this guy. I think he's a decent human being, a good guy. He's aligned himself beautifully with the city of Nottingham. He's done his homework. But if results don't start to turn, Mr. Marinakis might say, that's it. All I will say, stay
upright.
Yeah. All I will say, Perchy, lads, is that Brighton are kind of. I think Brighton are the sort of the blueprint of what our owner and his people want Forest to be. But I might be wrong in this, but I've got this feeling that Brighton were 15th first season up, 17th second season up, and 16th third season up. So Tony Bloom and the people at Brighton and Hove Albion will say, look, people at Nottingham Forest, it isn't going to happen overnight. And maybe, expectations run right. You can't control them. Some people will be thinking we need to be this. Some people need to be thinking that. But the essence of it for me is that, we haven't got the great man. We haven't got Cloughie anymore. So Rome will not be built in a day.
Yeah, no, definitely, Dave. No, guys, we're going to wrap up because I've got to run. But listen, guys, genuinely, thank you very much, everyone in the chat. It's been really cool. Thank you, everyone. Obviously, thanks to Savva's popped in. Thanks to Charlie as well. So make sure you go over to those guys and subscribe. Go and subscribe to Strasbourg Steve for all of his amazing random watch-alongs, which he does, which are of every random team around the world. I do respect it. You watch about 17,000 games a day. Make sure you go over to Tottenham Away and subscribe to Will and the gang all over there. You'll see Will back here tomorrow for Spurs Unleashed. We're moving that to Wednesday because we play on Thursday against West Ham. Dave, where can we find you, my friend, nowadays?
I don't have a channel. He doesn't have
a channel, but Dave will be here, back on here again, definitely.
Do you know what, mate? I haven't been on for a while, and Savva's been in touch. We've talked about, actually, and great respect to Savva, and I can't thank him enough. We've talked about things other than football recently because I've just been through an experience. Savva's been through that experience. Can't thank him enough. I've got responsibilities now to look after Mum because she's on her own. And to look after the family. And so, in time I may do a channel, but I'm pushing 60, and
Hey,
you want hit. As the enemy said, you want
genuine.
But it's been. I tell you what, lads, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you all tonight. Thank you so much for having me on.
I've had a really good time. And guys in the chat, please, on your way out, make sure you subscribe. Stay here as well. I'll forward it over to LB. I think he's live, so go over there and put a FHTV raid over there. I've got to run. Thank you all. And on that note, come on, you Spurs. We'll be back tomorrow with Spurs Unleashed. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.